Bengals fans are holding their breath here as Joe Burrow was helped off the field and is taken back to the locker room after suffering an injury to his left lower extremity. And in this video, we'll talk about the possibilities and whether this could be something as severe like an Achilles rupture. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and the goal in this channel is to teach you more about the medical side of the sports world. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a difficult one because there's nothing right offhand that I see as a clear and obvious injury for Joe Burrow. Everybody who's seeing this and is concerned about an Achilles, I will tell you right off the bat, I do not see anything that confidently tells me that this is an Achilles rupture. The mechanism is not necessarily consistent for what we'd see with an Achilles. I don't see any of the clear, obvious pop that we will typically see and observe with an Achilles injury. And so yes, even though we've seen a rash of them recently in the NFL, there's a lot of other things that can happen to the left lower leg, the ankle, the foot, that I would be more concerned about than an Achilles injury here for Burrow. Let's talk about the mechanism of what we see, and we'll then review our anatomy and injury possibilities. At the time of recording this, we do not yet have an update from Burrow, so hopefully by the time it's out, everything's looking good. Now, here as Burrow goes down, of course, we're talking about that left foot, left ankle, left leg. I don't see anything yet. As he goes down to plant here is when we really start to see the sequence of what could cause excessive stress on the tissues of his lower leg leading to an injury. I think what we're looking at here is something ankle or foot. I don't think this is necessarily calf or knee. The first thing that I think about is what structures could be injured in the foot. A Lisfranc injury is something that's of course going to be very serious, but a Lisfranc injury often involves somebody putting a force down through a foot that is pushed into the ground like this. So this position where his left foot is pushing down, that toe is in the turf, if somebody had fallen on the back of Burrow's ankle, that would absolutely worry me for a Lisfranc injury. Whenever somebody is pushing off of a plantar flexed foot, that would also worry me for a Lisfranc injury. This position, not as much. What we're going to then see as he finishes coming down to the ground, remember we're trying to look at that left leg, there's some camera flashing that almost makes it look like something is moving, but I don't see any clear snap recoil in that left calf. When we do finally see something move, it's purely because the foot has given way on the turf, not because of some clear and obvious snap or recoil in the Achilles. Now, this doesn't mean that the Achilles is not injured. I'm just saying we don't see that classic recoil like you'll see with an Achilles. Also, this position would be a little bit unusual for an Achilles rupture. Usually we're seeing them when a player is backpedaling and then pushing off, so maximum contraction through an eccentrically loaded, stretched calf and Achilles, not typically when they're just falling down to the ground like this with their toes anchored into the turf. Next, we'll talk about possibilities of other tendons that could be injured around the ankle and something like a turf toe. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video. Today's video is sponsored by 8 Sleep. 8 Sleep's Pod 5 is a high-tech mattress cover with built-in temperature control and a bunch of advanced features to help revolutionize the way you sleep for the better. It can quickly and easily be added to your existing bed and has been clinically proven to increase quality sleep by up to 1 hour. The base unit circulates water throughout the two halves of the mattress cover, as cool as 55 degrees and as warm as 110 degrees to perfectly dial in that temperature that you prefer for you and your partner. Within the app, you can specify your bedtime, nighttime, and wake times, as well as the preferred temperatures. And then the 8 Sleep Pod 5 will actually learn and make adjustments to those temperatures based on how it detects your sleep quality. It's like having your own personalized sleep coach on your mattress and in the palm of your hand. It also tracks your sleep quality, so I can go back and see exactly how well I slept each night, and even tells you things like how long you were snoring, so you can really learn about your sleep, make those adjustments, and let 8 Sleep get you a better quality sleep. So scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description and use my promo code BRIANMD to get $350 off your very own Pod 5. You get 30 days to try it risk-free, and you can return it if you're not satisfied with your results. But I don't think you're going to want to do that. I've been using 8 Sleep for the past few months. My sleep quality has never been better. I love waking up feeling nice and refreshed, and I think it's time that you do something as well to step up your sleep game. So thank you again to 8 Sleep for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back to our learning. So coming back to things, I think a turf toe injury is another thing that we're going to have on our differential here. Of course, the turf toe injury is where the ligaments, the plantar plate on the underside of the joint between the first metatarsal and the toe bone becomes stretched. And usually it's when the foot is planted into the ground like this, because in that position, his toe is going to be maximally extended, putting stretch on the undersurface of the structures of the foot. And so if we find out this is like a foot or a toe, I would be concerned about a turf toe injury. The other possibility here we can see whenever they're evaluating Burrow is maybe one of the tendons around his ankle. First of all, when the medical staff comes out, Burrow points to kind of the top of his foot and ankle. Remember, when we see Achilles tears, we see them grab at the backside of the calf. Burrow is not even anywhere concerned about the backside of his ankle. And so another clue that I don't think this is an Achilles. We then see him almost motioning to like the ankle region. And so then what we're going to see the medical staff provider do is basically have him lay back down, and he's going to test the dorsiflexion of his ankle. So there Joe is pulling the ankle upwards. That's going to be active dorsiflexion. There are tendons in the front of the ankle that dorsiflex or bend the ankle up and straighten or pick the toes up. The fact that this is the first thing that the medical staff member is doing is checking his dorsiflexion tells me that maybe Joe had pain in the front of the ankle and that they're concerned about an injury to one of the tendons in the front side of the ankle. If we go and look at our biodigital anatomy tool here, if we look at those main tendons that are going to sit in the front of the ankle, the anterior tibialis is the primary one that's going to dorsiflex the ankle. Moving across, we're going to have the extensor hallucis longus extending the big toe, and then the extensor digitorum longus. On the inner, the tarsal tunnel of the ankle, you're going to have your flexor hallucis longus, your posterior tibialis, and then your flexor digitorum longus, Tom, Dick, and Harry. So any of those tendons, again, could be overloaded, potentially an area of some concern. The one, I think, best case scenario is that Burrow simply caused some impingement in the front of his ankle, where the tibia and the talus bone joined together is going to be the front part of your ankle joint. And so if you maximally dorsiflex or bend the ankle upwards, you can just push those two ends of the bones together on one another and cause some impingement or bruising in the bone. If we go back to the play where this happened, that would fit and make sense. As Burrow comes through here, this is a very dorsiflex loaded position where that excessive dorsiflexion on that tibiotalar joint right down here could potentially cause some impingement. So that's a lot of I don't know. To be honest, in a situation like this, I'm telling you, there's nothing, I think, reliable from the footage that we can say this is conclusively what it is, but those are the different thoughts that are going to be going through my head whenever I see a play like this based on what I do on this channel. Again, I would be very surprised if this is an Achilles injury. We could still be dealing with just an Achilles strain, but we didn't see the classic position or that pop like you would see for an Achilles. If we hear about something like foot, I think turf toe is a possibility. If we hear about ankle, I would hope it's just something like some ankle impingement. But remember, there's a lot of other ligaments beyond just the Liz Frank. There's a lot of other tendons beyond just the Achilles that run around the ankle. What you're going to do initially is you're going to palpate. You're going to palpate around, push on the different structures, see what hurts. You're going to have him activate those muscles, see if anything is really weak, if there's lack of function with any of those muscles or tendons. Probably going to get x-rays. And then if everything checks out okay, see how his pain is and try and improve pain best you can to get him back functioning and out onto the field. I think for now, Bengals fans can rest a little bit easy. Hopefully we get word that he's just questionable to return and not ruled out right away. And then, of course, I'll provide any updates later on if we hear more about the injury. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.